Hey, welcome back to RToD. I wanted to do a little longer video on the upgrade video that I released earlier this week, where I talked about some of the things I did to my T430 and my T60, because these are upgrade methodologies that you can apply to a lot of vintage laptops, and really not even vintage, just even ones that are a couple years older. Um, this is going to be very ThinkPad centric, but like I said, it goes across the board. But we're kind of spoiled on the ThinkPad side. There's a lot of ThinkPad fanboys that have a lot of upgrade information. So if you don't have a ThinkPad, just take whatever machine you want to upgrade, compact Rosario 700, iBook G3 clamshell, put it into the Google machine, go to the Reddits. There's probably somebody who has crossed this bridge before you and has some valuable information. And you're probably going to find something like this. This is an article called The Definitive T430 Modding Guide. I'll have a link in the description. It's written by G-E-E, I don't know. But this is a great article. It's very thorough. It goes over everything you'd ever want to do for this model or the 530. I think T530, W530, it's all very similar chassis. But this isn't just for ThinkPads, right? I mean, there are very similar articles for a lot of other machines, and you want to rely on that community for people who have been through it before you. Very first thing this article talks about is the CPU. Now, a lot of older laptops have socketed CPUs. Not all of them, but a lot of them do, where you can just pull that old CPU out, put a new one in. The trouble comes in making sure you find a CPU that is a match. If you don't have an article like this, you can start diving into the chipset and see what it could support. Or really the easiest thing you can do is find old advertisements for that machine. There might have been different tiers for it. Think of it as you're building a new laptop today. You go to, IBM, or not IBM anymore, Dell, HP, Lenovo, you start customizing that machine. It might show you 3 or 4 different chipsets you can put in there. Well, if you go back 15, 20 years and look at old advertisements for older machines, those are the chips you're going to have available to you. Now, if we look this one, this says that T430 supports a different variations of chipsets here, right? Now, I went with the i7 3540M. For what this machine does, that's plenty, but there's more room. I could go up to this 3.9 gigahertz quad core that could be thermally stable at 4.6 gigahertz. I mean, hey, that's a solid machine right there. And these processors are reasonable. I bought mine for a little less than this, but an eBay search this week shows the i7's 3540M for $20. Give or take a little bit. You can probably haggle a little bit with best offer. But when you think my T430 had an i5, going from an i5 to an i7, especially, something pushing 3.5, 4 gigahertz, that is a huge, huge upgrade. Now, whether you upgrade the CPU or not, you might want to think about the fan heatsink. For this machine, it's a one size fits all, kind of, right? But you buy this in a package. Even if you don't upgrade the CPU, these fans are old. They've been spinning for a really long time. Probably want to get a new one, right? That's just going to have longevity in it. While you're there, reapply some thermal paste, especially if you get a new CPU. Don't trust the thermal paste that comes with the fans. But if you want to go with the T430 or a similar model from Lenovo, look at this heatsink. See how it has 2 arms coming off. One goes to the CPU and the other one will go to a GPU. Now, those are 2 different FRUs that you can order either one of those 2 models. However, my machine does not have a GPU. I went with the heatsink with the GPU pipe because I wanted that extra copper on there for heat dissipation, and this article 100% agrees with that. So even if you don't have the max of the line i7 that your machine can handle, having that extra copper will keep it cooler. Pretty much no-brainer in my opinion. And honestly, the price differences between the two were either a couple bucks or exactly the same. So well worth the upgrade in my opinion. Now, mind you, CPU upgrades aren't for everybody. maybe you don't want to tear that much into your machine, because a lot of these machines weren't made with CPU upgrades in mind, at least on the consumer side. So I always recommend to everybody, the very first thing you need to think about, whether it's an older machine or even a new one, is max out the RAM. Go as much as your hardware can handle. Easiest thing to do with that is go to crucial.com, links will be in the description, go over here to shop RAM. Laptop memory, doesn't really matter, because what we're going to do is we're going to go with the scan my laptop. I could look up the model number and everything, but I really like this tool. We're just going to download it real quick. There it is. We're going to run it. And this is analyzing my machine right now to see what I have installed, what I can do, and it's going to give us a little rating. So let's wait a little bit. All right, here we go. So it's going to give me a score based off of other similar machines. So it looks like this thing is scanned over 17,000 T430s, and I am above average. Not too surprising. I upgraded the processor. So the guys above me are probably having that higher power i7. So first thing it's going to say, hey, look, solid state hard drive. We're going to come back to that, because we'll get to that. But right now we're looking just at RAM. So this is my favorite part of the tool right here. So it shows you how many slots you have. So this machine has 2 slots, right? And it can hold a maximum of 16 gigs. Right now, that's this configuration. I have 16 gigs of RAM in here with 2 8GB slots. Now, what this doesn't tell you is where are those slots, okay? So for the T430, if you flip it over, there's a door on the bottom. So a lot of laptops will have a RAM door on the bottom, usually 1 or 2 screws, open it up, and you can put a RAM card in there. Perfect. However, the other RAM slot is under the keyboard. Not as easy to get to. You might not want to dig that deep. So before you start buying 2 8GB cards, find out where the RAM is and where are you comfortable with. Do you want to take the whole thing apart? Because I'll be honest, if you take the keyboard apart, you might as well take the bezel out and upgrade the CPU, replace a fan while you're in there. And you can see how this can roll into a good bit of work under the hood. But again, other machines have both slots on the bottom. You got to look at what yours is. And again, if you don't know, reach out to the community. Somebody will help you. Now, you could buy the RAM, in most cases, from Crucial. And don't get me wrong, Crucial is a great company. I buy RAM from them all the time. But when you're looking at older machines, you might get a better deal on eBay, or even reach out to the community. A lot of people have bins, lots and lots of bins full of RAM. And if I have something you need, yeah, we can probably make a deal. Maybe I'll send you postage or something. Ask around. It doesn't hurt, right? But don't just buy the first thing, right? If you just do one thing to your vintage machine and you upgrade your RAM, you're going to notice hopefully a sizable performance boost. Another easy thing you can do is the hard drive, all right? A lot of these old machines have spinning hard drives. Let's replace that with solid state. You can go to Amazon or your merchant of choice and just type in 2.5 SSD. That'll show us everything we have for the laptop form factor. However, you got to be careful, because there's a lot of, I don't want to say no names, but weird made up names that aren't going to be reliable. Stick with your Samsung, stick with your Crucials, your HP, names that you know, right? If it's too good of a deal, it's too good of a deal, and it's going to fail on you. So shop around, look for it. And you might argue, you might say, hey Mike, this is just going to be a Windows 98 machine with some games on it. Okay, great. But you're probably going to spend a long time getting Windows set up, getting all of your software on there, and you're going to want it to last. Like, look at this thing here. This is a Blixum, I don't know. 256 gigabytes for $15. Sounds like a really good deal, but I don't know that name. I've never heard of it. Yeah, it's got a lot of reviews, but that doesn't mean anything. This drive, it might work. It might be fine. It might fail. It might not even be the full advertised space, right? It might say it's 256 gigs, but it really just might be like 100, 120, And, when you start filling that up, it starts erasing older data, and then you're just in a world of hurt. So watch the names on this. Now, this is great for SATA drives for newer laptops, but what if you have a laptop with IDE on it? Well, if you watched any of my laptop restoration videos where I did older iMacs, or iBooks, both the clamshell and the Snow White, or my compact Rosario, or insert any really older machine, I've been using a lot of these IDE to M-SATA converters. These are great. I love them because, it's really simple. It's just a pass-through, right? It converts IDE over to modern M-SATA. And you can throw this in and instantly get a very large volume on a reliable drive. Again, watch your brands, right? This Zeno, I'll admit, it's a weird name, but I've used them and I've yet to have an issue with it. But your mileage might vary, right? So, $40 for this adapter, maybe another $20-$30 for the actual device itself, and you can get your older IDE hard drive laptop solid state, combine that with a RAM upgrade, and you're really going to be cooking, especially if you did a fresh install of an OS and start over with basically a brand new machine. It's going to be a big improvement for you, and it's going to make that machine last longer, because this T430, for example, what I'm using right now, this is what I'm recording this on. It still has a lot of life in it. Let's be honest, it's an older machine, but for what I use it for, it's perfect. And this was my daily driver up till about 3 or 4 years ago when I bought my T495. It was great, and I'd still be using it. It does everything I ask it to. But again, I'm not doing heavy gaming on here. I'm not doing a lot of demanding stuff. So your mileage will vary, but it's all about having these machines, which are still useful and still have life in them, just maximizing that as much as we can. Because with this new i7 processor, I can probably get easily another 10 years out of that. And you might scoff at that, but I've already had this T430 since launch. I've had my T60 since launch, and I still use that. Just doing these little upgrades keeps these machines out of landfills. It keeps them out of recycling centers, which might just throw stuff of them away. And it's just better. It's better for the environment, and it's better for your pocketbook as well. Let's talk about some other upgrades, because everybody should be upgrading your RAM. Everybody should be upgrading your hard drive to a solid state, maybe doing your processor. But there are other things you can do to increase your enjoyability and your experience. If your machine has a removable battery, it's probably dead or, non-functional. This is my second battery for this T430, and I might get a solid 10 minutes out of it. So I'm looking for a new battery. Unfortunately, they're not making OEM batteries for the T430 anymore. And if you buy an OEM battery, it's old, or it has a bunch of cycles on it. So you're probably dealing with a refurbished one, whatever that means, or you're dealing with some other aftermarket for it. This is where it's hit and miss. If you look on Amazon, all right, $30-$40, give it a shot, right? It's going to be better than what you have. It will be better than your older battery, but you're probably not going to get, 4 or 5 hours that you would have got on an OEM battery when this thing rolled off the factory. So my recommendation, at least when I was mobile with my T430, and this was my daily driver, I had 2 of these Amazon batteries, right? I bought them for it's probably one of the $32 or $36 ones. I bought 2 of them, and I always carried it with me. And that was more than enough than what I needed. Now, there are some other options too. You might have some laptops with hot swappable bays where you could take out the CD-ROM and put in a battery in there. Other options, right? Doesn't matter how you slice it, right? Get a newer aftermarket battery. It's going to help the life of that machine and make it more useful in a mobile environment. But I'll be honest with you, my T430 anymore is just a desk queen. It sits on my desk. I'm not taking it anywhere. So if your laptop had a dock available for it, or if there's a third-party dock, highly, highly recommend it. Even a new laptop, right? I got the dock for my T495 because that just expands a lot of what the machine can do. Let's take a look. This is the ThinkPad Mini Dock Series 3. This is one that works with the T430. And right off the bat, right, what do we get? We get VGA out, great. Was that six USB ports plus the plus the 4 already on the machine. That's 10 USB ports. We got Ethernet, we got dedicated headphones and mic, which is great because in this machine it's just one jack. So you plug in headphones or mic, not both unless you use a USB dongle, right? And video options out. So DisplayPort, really nice, especially for this machine. Some docks you might need to upgrade the power supply. They might come with it. Look at what came OEM, right? Go through some old advertisements, find out what that dock needed. If you have an IBM, Lenovo, a Dell, all of these have really great OEM docks that are going to expand your ports and just make the machine overall better to use on your desk. You can plug a whole bunch of stuff in there. And the great thing about a dock, especially for my T430, this goes with me places. But at my desk, I plug it into the dock, the monitor's there, the keyboard, the mouse, everything is plugged in, and I don't have to unplug in everything. I just got to take it off the dock. It makes your computing life easier. And a lot of these older docks are really reasonably priced. Not that one, $166. You guys are way out of there. But $30, $20, $19.50 your best offer. That's not bad, especially for the expandability that you instantly get with your machine. To me, it's a no-brainer, right? So, but again, listen, all of this is very subjective. You need to do what works best for you, works best with your own budget, but more importantly, works best with your machine. Not every laptop has a dock for it. That's just a fact of life, right? But every laptop has RAM and it has a hard drive. You can update those. Max out the RAM, put a solid state hard drive in it. That alone, even if you just copy your existing OS over, don't do a fresh install, that alone it'll be like a brand new machine for you. If you have a socketed processor and you are up to the task of getting in there, pulling that out, more power to you. Do it. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to get a brand new machine. This T430, I feel like, has a new lease in life. And you know what? Maybe in a couple years down the road, I might upgrade it to that max. Let's look at this. To that max, the i70-3940XM. So it is a quad-core machine. So, other things I'm going to have to do with that. We're probably going to have to update the BIOS. Maybe do some different fan settings on it to cool it down. Definitely is going to need a beefier power supply. But, look at this. Thermally stable at 4.6 gigahertz. All cores have been reported. That's pretty sick. I like that. I like that. But yeah, so this is probably a little bit of a ramble, but I really wanted to go over my methodology when I update any laptop. And if you look at some of my older videos, you see this thought process, right? The clamshell, the iBook, the compact Presario, even the iMac. Any machine I work on, I really try to max those specs out as much as I reasonably can to make that machine more usable, give it a new lease on life, and make it something that I can use and enjoy. Because that's the point of this, it's the point of the hobby, right? And keeps them out of the landfill too. So it's a win-win for everybody. So I think that's going to wrap this up. Shorter video, just kind of wanted to explain my thought process. If you like what you're doing over here at Retro Tech or Die, like, subscribe, tell your friends, and why don't you leave a comment below on a machine you're working on, maybe an older machine you upgraded or want to upgrade. Let's see what you're working on.